Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of New Slang. I'm your host, music journalist Thomas Mooney, and this is episode 91. We're closing out the month of May with country singer-songwriter Kathryn Legendre. As it happens, Kathryn is releasing a new 2-song single this Friday, May 29th. They're really what we'd consider the harbinger of what her next full-length record will be. She sent them over a couple weeks ago, and it's strange how things kind of work their way out. I say this because she wrote and recorded them some time back, but they really do capture that restlessness that's kind of creeped into all of our lives this spring. The 2 songs, One Long Sad Song and Waiting in Line, they were written about just kind of like that general restlessness and that needing of a sad song to just kind of capture what you're feeling when you're really just down and out. And of course, like right now in this quarantine, I feel like that's just something that really just applies to our daily lives. So there's definitely some projection on my part, but Kathryn agrees. She says so in the interview. It's always just one of those things where you always apply the present situation to whatever song you're listening to make sense of that song and to make sense of your current state. For those unfamiliar with Kathryn, she's one of these songwriters who's really been informed by the neo-traditional country radio of her youth and really those old school honky-tonk ethos. I highly encourage you to go check out her excellent 2019 EP, Making It Up. And then of course tomorrow go listen to the 2-song punch of One Long Sad Song and Waiting in Line. As I mentioned just a second ago, this is the last episode of May, and it's really been a productive 30-ish days. During this time, there's been 8 episodes of New Slang. Songwriters Rod Melanson, Jared Morris, Charlie Marie, Willie Braun of Reckless Kelly, Gabe Lee, journalist Christian Wallace, and then of course this episode you're listening to now with Kathryn. As always, subscribe to New Slang if you haven't done so just yet. It's literally going to be on every platform you can think of for podcasts. Please leave a 5-star review. Go follow me on Twitter and on Instagram @_New Slang. Go give New Slang a like on Facebook. And of course, please suggest New Slang to anyone you can think of who just really enjoys Americana, country, folk, rock, and just conversations about music in general. Okay, that about wraps it up. Here is the interview with Kathryn Legendre.
Like, I don't know if old habits die hard or whatever, but I want to be like, test, checking the mic, 1, 2. Gosh, that feels nostalgic.
Yeah. Okay, so continue the story you were saying. Like, what was that last show?
So I remember the last show I played, and it was March 6th. But luckily it was an acoustic show. It was just me and Brian Broussard on guitar, and we played out at this. Is it called a cidery? I don't really drink cider, so I don't know. But it's like a place where they serve cider and not wine, I learned. But it was pretty chill considering. But I remember, I think that was maybe on a Friday night or something. And coming up after the weekend on Monday was my residency at the White Horse. And Austin was not under any kind of quarantine. I think it was recommended that people stay home, but nothing had been set in place yet. And it was such a strange just decision to have to make, or even debate, in my head, like, do I play this? Do I need the money? Do I obviously don't want to inconvenience this venue who also means a lot to me, personally. And not only that, it's not just risking my health, but the health of the people who play with me and things like that. And, I talked it over with my bandmates first and foremost, but ultimately we decided not to play that gig. And it was kind of interesting because usually they have 3 bands on, 3 to 4 bands on in any given night. And the other 2 bands that were scheduled to play that night, we all just kind of talked and just kind of came to this agreement. We just didn't think it was the safe thing to do. And luckily, everyone that I talked to, whether with the venue, booking, other artists, bandmates, whatnot, was so incredibly understanding and, made that, even though it was a weird decision, made it, a little easier in the end. And yeah, it's just strange to think too that like that was, I guess if like there's a, not that I feel like I went out, but I don't know, I feel like there's some other shows I would have liked to have gone out on. But yeah, it was a weird thing just to have to make that decision. And now it's almost, the pendulum's kind of starting to swing the other way. I actually just had a conversation with a club, or I guess a bar on the coast that I've really been wanting to play, but even operating under 25 or 50% capacity, just like it just doesn't seem worth it, not only for me, but if for a fan, or someone who wants to just hear live music. It's just, I hate to yeah, just give like the short end of the stick. And I feel like until things just feel more safe and, at least there's some kind of like vaccine, maybe, I just don't know, when that will be. But yeah, I've kind of been having these different conversations with venues, like, is it cool if we reschedule this for a later date? Because I'm still not comfortable coming back. Yeah, but so far everyone's been pretty understanding about it, and I'm so thankful.
Yeah, it's again like the 25 to 50% thing is, I don't know if that's doable for these venues. I don't know if that's keeps the lights on. I don't know if like that makes it worth it to artists to go places and play. That, I don't know. It just is such a weird time, and it also just, this whole time has felt like there's never, I don't know, like it always feels like with anything, I've never been in charge of, you know what I mean? This is such a, like you always just kind of go like, oh, someone else is going to ultimately make this decision for me. And then now, like, obviously there for like a long time, the decision was made for us there, but there's now this wiggle room of people being asked to, like you said, like being asked to play. If you're obviously those venues haven't been pressuring you, but like that like there's, it's not necessarily even the venue, it's the, if you're like on a booking agency or like your management or like, you know what I mean, like I don't know how you, or just like the pressures of watching that bank account.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I realize at the end of the day, like a lot of people are just doing their jobs or trying to make money. And I get that, But, and again, luckily my experience has been like very understanding on like both sides, but I've definitely heard stories of just, I don't know if it's like desperate times, but just, different friends and artists have definitely had more pressure in getting back to it. And, I hate to say it, but it's almost like the politics seep into it. And that's what I want to avoid at all costs. Just like, hey, let's just talk about this, let's just be honest with each other. Like, that's all I ask, and luckily that's worked out for me, like I said, but it's going to, I mean, I think that snowball effect is going to continue to happen though.
Yeah. One of my friends was saying how he kind of thinks that bars and venues that have outdoor space, if they transition to that being the place that where they're open, that's obviously a lot more safe and maybe a lot more doable for people.
Yeah.
Just because of open air, you're like, I had talked before we started recording, these bars are not the the safe, like they don't have like great ventilation systems and great air conditioning, and the classic dive bar and honky-tonk tropes are there for a reason. So
yeah, it's gonna be so strange. Like, not. I love a dive bar. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to go to one again.
Yeah, or like if you go with a mask on. Like I
Yeah.
wonder, like, just have you felt like the pressure of not wearing a mask out in public, like from just like the looks from other people?
Maybe here and there, but most of the time I have a mask. Anytime I've gone places, which is mostly the grocery store, I'll walk down, I think it's like a 1.5 mile round trip. I'll walk down to our little corner coffee store, and they, for a while before they opened up, they had just like this tent outside that we could just get like some basics. I could go get eggs and a margarita, and it was great. Um, but anytime I would go places like that, I would always have a mask. Um, if I was outside, I wouldn't really wear a mask that much, just because I felt like, yeah, I didn't have to maybe worry about ventilation as much. But there's people giving glances here and there all the time. But at the same time, I feel like I can't say that I'm fully innocent of not doing that either, because I've seen so many people without their masks on too, and I'm just like, why? So at least when it comes to me and my personal choice about it, I'll definitely be wearing a mask for the next while.
Yeah, I've been out twice now, like out in public. And that first time going out, I swear, like I probably had like a little bit of a little panic attack, because I was just like, I've not been in yet, and I don't know like the new rules, and like, because I'd seen about you have to enter certain places this way, and you have to go down the aisles this way, and then of course like going in, and it's just like a madhouse anyways, so you're just kind of like, okay, and then of course my glasses are like fogging up because of the mask, and then like
yes,
you're just kind of like, oh god, that's horrible, but also at the same time, I think it's people who wear glasses have been like overblowing that, because within like a minute you figure out how to do it right.
Yeah. But there is at least for me, like I feel like there's a little bit of a learning curve. I guess I didn't realize, like, when I'm doing things, how I guess maybe active I am when I'm doing it, and heavy breathing and whatnot. And it took me a minute to just like figure out how to breathe properly in that and not feel like I was suffocating myself, half the time. But
Yeah.
it's been an adjustment, but one that I'm again like willing to make.
Yeah. That first time I went out, I had like just the kind that you like wrap around your ears, and then the second time I had like a cloth one, and the cloth one just felt so much more breathable and doable.
Interesting.
And it was just like, I don't know, it just felt like a better experience, but it was also just, it's so weird wearing that mask around, and I've kind of done I've got 10 minutes to do what I need to do in here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, like it's always longer than that, but then it's still like, get it out of here as quickly as possible. And then like right as I exited the building, I took my mask off just to get that fresh air, because obviously but I don't know. It's also like one of those things where up here, I think people are a little bit more, this is, hashtag fake news kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they look at you like you're fucking crazy. And I'm like, this is to help protect you too, you moron. Like,
that's what I don't understand. It's just, there's no compassion there for like your neighbor. It seems sometimes. And I do feel like I have a different experience than a lot of other parts of Texas, because I do live in Austin. And I feel like maybe there's just more people who are like-minded in the way that I am thinking and approaching this. So I'm glad for that. But I mean, I can't really talk to my parents about that, So it's just kind of like, it's weird. It's so strange. Like balancing. I mean, I don't think there is a balance really with that. I just try to live my life.
Yeah. Like the one thing I've always kind of had criticism for when it comes to Lubbock has been how, despite being just a mid-sized population-wise city or town, whatever you want to call it, it's always been just so spread out. And it's like every place has just a giant parking lot, and it's just concrete and just asphalt and shit like that, right? Parking lots are just like, they're just massive, and everything just feels so spread out. that has, like, in my opinion, helped keep your distance from people, just because of that aspect of just being where everything is so big out here.
Yeah,
And
very true.
obviously down there, everything's just so much more compact. And
Mhm.
um, I think, like, just having this space, even just like when I'm talking like neighborhood space, um, I feel like that's probably helped people's sense of mental health, and um, just being able to, I don't know, get out, and even if they're not able to go to parks or anything like that, or the swimming pool, or go get coffee and hang out with their friends, like having that outdoor space, and just to get out a little bit into your own little space, you know what I mean,
Right.
has
Yeah.
probably done wonders for people. You mentioned, you're going to be you're um, doing some gardening and stuff like that. Is that also just to, is that more, you think, to fill time, or to, what are you wanting to grow? Like, what is, like, your in game on the gardening?
Um. yeah, Well, honestly, it kind of started as I guess a way to fill time. It's interesting because one my experience through a lot of this, and especially through quarantine, has been mostly positive, which I feel like I have not shared that with at least a lot of people around me. I'm thankful because, I live with Brian Broussard, who's my husband, and he has also been just like had incredibly high spirits. But I feel like that's kind of hard to say to some of my friends and peers, because obviously there's a lot of struggle happening right now. But I think honestly, it was just like my life prior to being quarantined was nonstop. And that's even putting it gently, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to describe just like how constant everything was and felt and overwhelming. And I've always had things I've wanted to try or experiment with, or just hobbies or things to learn. I really enjoy doing things with my hands. Um, and so I just feel like, given this opportunity to slow down, I have had no shortage of hobbies that I've either picked up or tried and whatnot. And gardening just became one of those that I literally had like some old seed packets lying around. Figured, why not? Let's try it. And I never ever thought, I mean, I still don't know if I do, but I never thought that I was one to like have a green thumb. I just like, I could barely keep like succulents alive that I would get as gifts and whatnot. But it has just become one of my favorite outlets now. And I don't even know if it's an outlet, it's just something I look forward to now. It's become a brand new part of my daily routine. Um, and it's been one of those hobbies that has kind of like stuck. Like I picked up crocheting again, and I was like, I'm just gonna see how big I can crochet a blanket, and I'm already just kind of like, I'm like kind of over it. But yeah, I don't know. I just Gardening has been just such a newfound joy in my life, and I feel like it's kind of like things like that that are helping me stay positive. And I definitely think the way my brain works, I like to see my effort or, work like go towards something. And so the fact that I can see, oh, I planted it and I watered it every day and I gave it fertilizer and it's actually growing and I can see that, like, that's great for my brain.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I think, like, for starters, like, having what's helped people mostly during all this has been that uh, routine. And if you find something that you can do daily, that's done so much for people, because, like, and uh, the thing where, like, you have where, yeah, you see progress, that
Hmm.
does so much, because, like, uh, somebody I was talking to earlier had said that the reason I think that they thought people were having major problems with this is that they felt worthless because they were doing nothing. They were just idle.
Mm.
And that so much of your self-worth comes from being able to do something and then have results. And
Absolutely,
sometimes
yeah.
if you're just idle for so long, it feels like you've not done anything and you've not made anything and you're not provided any worth to the world. And so like even the smallest of bits help make you feel like you're doing something. But you know what this feels like to me this entire time has felt like when you first go to school and you come back home from summer and like it's just been like this lost summer of nothing, even though it's not been summer. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
where you're just kind of like you really don't have a job and you're just kind of hanging out.
And honestly, like I came to that realization pretty quick or early on, I feel like. And you know, I have been wanting to embrace that as much as possible because like I said, like my lifestyle before this, and it was totally something that I caused and put on myself a lot, but you know, I can't remember the last time I had, you know, the time to read and talk about progress. Like that's another way I can like I'm doing something for myself and I can actually see that like I'm making my way through this like book and whatnot. But I kind of lost my point. I derailed, but I kind of went down a different tangent.
Yeah,
What were you
just
talking about again?
kind of like that lost summer of
Oh
like
yeah.
your freshman year coming
Um,
back home and
but
stuff.
but yeah, totally trying to embrace this time because I just this just won't happen again, you know? And I just having this time to slow down has just given me the opportunity to, I guess, learn even more about myself. But just really, I think it's kind of funny. I've mentioned this a few times, and I feel like you'll appreciate this being on Twitter and whatnot. But one of the last things that I posted before going into quarantine, not knowing that quarantine was ahead, was most days I'd rather just be holed up somewhere writing a song. And in this weird, macabre way, the world kind of like dropped that in my lap, you know? And so it's just kind of like, I just don't want to take that for granted either, you know? I feel like I kind of, in a weird way, got what I was wishing for, you know? So I'm really just trying, you know, thankfully I've been able to see a lot of this as an opportunity and really just have been trying to like hone that productivity, like you said, but just in ways that now I can dictate. You know, it's great. You know, I guess the con of like some of this is that like I got furloughed, but the pro is that like now no one's assigning me things. I literally wake up and I'm just like, this is what I'm doing today. And it's just, this time has been really fulfilling for me. And I'm so thankful that I haven't like hit a wall of either, you know, just succumbing to like negative feelings, which, you know, is definitely easy for me to do and has been easy for me to fall into like negative thought patterns in the past. But so much of this, yeah, just feels like an opportunity. And I'm really just trying to ride that wave as long and as much as possible.
Yeah, it definitely gives you so much perspective on what's going on, like um, outside of quarantine, like what your life was before and what it can be after. And you know, there's I guess like one of the I don't know if this is right or wrong or anything like that, but one of the things I was thinking about was, you know, is this going to be are we should we be going back to the way it was after this ends? You
I
know what I
hope
mean?
not.
And like that, exactly. Are we going back to, should we go back to what it was like last year? Or should this be able to give some people perspective and go, oh, yeah, you know what? We do probably need to change our ways about things. Or, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to have more time off? And, you know, like, I'm not saying like 70 days every year, just like
Mm-hmm.
in a row, but like, is there, like, do people need to just have more rest, like just time to just decompress, I guess. Because I feel like this has
Yeah.
helped decompress, especially those first few weeks. It helped people like, I don't know, go back to zero or whatever. And so I don't know, maybe like every 2 years maybe not all at once because that's
Yeah.
really fucked everything up. But maybe like every 2 years, people just like take a month off straight.
I mean, I know it's funny because before this, I'm like, will I ever get to the point, where I can like take a sabbatical? Like, will that exist for me? And this is kind of what I'm doing right now, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting. Like you say that too. Like similarly, one of the things that has crossed my mind a lot is wondering if this is also a bit of a wake up call for people in terms of like taking care of the earth. Like conservation and preservation are two things I'm very passionate about and interested in. And I don't know, maybe this is like the Edward Abbey coming out in me, but I'm just like, hopefully this makes people appreciate, like what we have. And, in a very small way, like people won't be littering, nearly as much and think about things like that, and, for me personally, I've even been able to have the opportunity to learn how to compost more, which, it's not a lot, but I feel like these are things that I'm learning and getting back in touch with that at least for this generation seemed a little bit lost. And especially getting to see so many people my age and even especially younger, learning how to grow their own food, now like those are like lasting lessons, and I really hope that those are positive ways that people continue to, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this sounds like hippie or whatever, but it's like, I saw this stat the other day that like, the emissions, like went down like 17% or during like quarantine and whatnot. And I'm just like, hell yeah, that's great. I love this, hopefully people are just thinking about the earth too.
Yeah, that's, I guess, like one of the things we've always been told by the people who don't believe in climate change has been, well, even if it's real, we're too far down that road, and humans aren't making it that big of a impact on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything has shown in this 70 days is that, you know what, like, yeah, we are making a massive impact. And if we stop doing like over half of what we've done for just 70 days, like there's been so much where the earth has quote unquote healed itself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just smog has dissipated, and in like these, obviously in these Chinese cities and like in, in India and obviously like in the US and stuff too, but places that it's strange to also think that like we probably have really bad loose regulations here in the US, and
Yeah.
then say like, our regulations are like so much stronger than they are in China or in like India or a lot of other Russia. You know what I mean? Like our
Mm-hmm.
regulations are so much better than a lot of theirs, and just having them stop for this moment has like just cleared the air. And like, there was these people talking about how they could in India could like see the Himalayas for like the first time
Wow.
from their like village or their city or whatever in
That's
like
incredible.
60 years or something, or from like, I guess maybe 60 years, something like that, like from wherever. And this is like 100 miles away, you know what I mean? And
Oh my gosh. Wow.
so there's been like things like that have it, to me, that just shows like, hey, like we are having an impact, and we don't have to go to, all of us doing, we don't have to like cut out all of everything, but we can scale back and like just be more thoughtful about all this stuff. And
absolutely, yeah.
You mentioned like growing your own food. That doesn't mean like we're all gonna like move to a commune and like
Right,
grow our own
yeah.
food. But you know what? You growing something, like even just if you're not, you're still going to go to the grocery store. You're still going to like buy stuff. But if you just cut out a little bit of something, you're going to like save money on whatever, right? Or you're doing something at least, right? Even if you like plant stuff and you're not even like growing anything that you're really going to eat, you're adding more plant life into wherever you're living, and it's giving off oxygen and all that
exactly.
kind of stuff. So,
And I don't know, those are the things I've luckily been focusing on. I feel like, some of those, how do we spin this into a positive?
this episode is sponsored by Wicker's Mesquite Smoked Jalapeno Jelly. It's owned and operated by my buddy Wes Wicker, who makes the jelly in small batches for the best quality and freshness. He smokes the peppers with mesquite and uses pure cane sugar to make the jelly. What you get is this great blend of smoky, sweet, and spicy. It's addictively savory. For those uninitiated, Wicker's is a great addition to any chef's kitchen. Part of what makes Wicker's so great is just how versatile it really is. For starters, it makes a great meat glaze. Throw it on a batch of hot wings, use it on some pork ribs, some pork chops, really whatever you can think of. Eat it on biscuits, cornbread, bagels, or toast. Throw it on a ham or turkey sandwich. Another super simple but effective way is to get some cream cheese, throw some Wickers on top, and then grab your favorite cracker. Wickers is currently stocked at a handful of places in Lubbock and on the South Plains, as well as some Fort Worth and DFW locations. But the easiest way to get your hands on a jar is to head over to wickerstx.com. That's WICKERSTX.com. I'll throw a link into the show notes for good measure. They currently come in 2 varieties, original and now hot, if you need just a little bit more kick in your bite. You can order anything from 1 jar to a case of 12, whatever fits your needs. Again, that's wickerstx.com. Okay, back to the show. Absolutely. Obviously, this whole, you're talking about like wanting to, have time to write songs and stuff like that. If you had the opportunity, all that stuff before all this, how has this impacted the creative side? Have you been able to like sit down and like write, or is it something that, now that the time is there, it's like, writer's block or something?
I guess I haven't necessarily had writer's block necessarily, but I haven't created like as much of a routine with writing as I guess initially hoped or thought I would. But the good thing about it is that it's given me time each day. So it's like maybe I'm not writing a consistent 30 minutes to an hour a day. Like maybe I just wrote down 2 lines that day, but I did, and that's more than I did in the past. And for me especially, like my approach to songwriting is I've kind of gone back and forth in my brain with it. If I'm gonna call myself a songwriter, I have to, like, there's this quota at least, right? Or something. And I've just kind of especially used this time to level with myself and just kind of accept my process, or maybe lack thereof sometimes. And it's funny because I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, you know what? For me, songwriting is like fishing. Like I will show up and I'll go out there, but like I'm probably not catching fish, very often, or at least not like one that I can like keep. You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm glad that I've given myself that space and like that understanding. And I have been like pretty creative. I've at least finished 2 songs that I feel good about. And I have, oh my gosh, this is the most frustrating part, is having like a handful of like 90 to 95% finished songs. But it's nice kind of like knowing that when either if inspiration hits or if I have like a lull in my day where I want to go sit down and try and work that out, that I can. And it's been really nice. But I also feel like I've been super creative in a lot of other ways as well. And I kind of think that's what's helped me not either hit writer's block or even hit a wall in terms of like, I'm bored, it's, I've, I've been able to be in a weird way, like creative in my garden and my backyard and whatnot. And I've dove back into designing a lot more. When I was working full time, I definitely come from a background of marketing. So I'm always trying to find out, how to market myself next or this way or what would be best. Creating things for like my website and even being able to extend some of those skills and help friends, which has been great, But yeah, the creativity has been rolling. It hasn't been crazy, but I think just having this time and like the space for it, I'm so thankful.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think for so long that I guess like when you read about songwriters writing songs, they always talk about, I guess like it's the romanticism of art, right? It's the romanticism of being a songwriter and like this is what I do and I write songs and for me I don't know, I guess like a lot of times you talk with people and they play that up where it's like for me this is like the hardest thing in the world to do, but also for me it's so easy, and I feel like it's interesting hearing you say like just being like a lot more practical and real about it and just being like like this is writing is it's not what like my songwriting process is this and it's not what I was told to believe it was going to be. That's
I like what you said, what I romanticize. I imagine some of the things you hear about all these great songwriters, they wrote it every day. I'm like, that's just, I don't know if that's in the cards for me. I hope we'll see, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's so weird, like hearing. It's one of those things where I guess like over time you just realize when you scrape all of that away, you realize that there's a million ways to write a song and there's a million different processes and they're just as varied as there are songs out there and that
Totally.
it's not like again like we just kind of romanticize like the way certain people write and I guess like over the years I've kind of done the thing where I guess like the classic songwriters that we all think of, the guys in the towns and like those people were flawed in their ways and they maybe like that maybe that's not the standard of like how you write a song or like how you live your life as a quote unquote artist and just like pulling back that curtain and realizing like they had there was days that they weren't able to write songs too. So I don't know.
And it is kind of strange being able to put yourself in that perspective because I think it comes not only with romanticizing but respect. Like two people that I think of are like Brennan Lee and Noel McKay, and like in my mind, Brennan's never written a bad song. Like I can't. My brain cannot picture her just being like, no, this isn't, but I know that at the end of the day, like, and that's, I guess at the end of the day too, one of the reasons why I respect them so much is because they are real in that sense. They do have days or actually, I think it was Noel McKay. I was watching one of his live streams the other day and he mentioned something. He was playing songs off of Sketches of South Central Texas, which I fucking love that album so much. But he mentioned that one of the songs on there, I think he hadn't written I can't remember the exact story, and I'm going to butcher it probably regardless. But basically, he had writer's block for like 5 years. And it was like during this time when he was like doing construction, working on houses and stuff. But I was just like, when I heard that, I was like, he's human. Like, oh my, and that is someone that I, like look up to and admire. And so hearing that was not only like slightly encouraging, but like that's just another one of those things that attract me to like their kind of songwriting. It's like it's real.
Yeah. Like if we just look at the notebooks and see the scratched out lines and go,
Yeah.
oh man, I can't believe they thought that was gonna work,
Yeah. Or just either that, or it's sometimes it's hard to imagine like, oh, like the scratched out lines in their notebook are like the best lines in mine, or just
Right.
stuff like that. But and again, like I don't know if maybe this is like my brain trying to be like competitive with myself, but in a weird, not a weird way, but to me, that is how I taught myself this is the kind of song that I want to write one day, that I want to be able to craft. Um, I feel like, and especially, taking my personal favorite songwriter, Guy Clark, just put on one of those records and, you know, I don't know how I don't think you can teach songwriting, but just listening to that and experiencing that connection has always just been like, this is what I'm aiming for. So even if, my best lines are their worst lines, then it gives me something to strive for, so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. Like as a journalist, what I've kind of come around to, what my job is like to give context for a songwriter, but at the same time, like I guess what I've told other journalists who have like emailed me or direct messaged me on Twitter, like, hey, how do you do this?
Yeah.
I've kind of always said, not always, but like in the last couple of years, I've said that like what I want to do when talking about an artist or talking with an artist is simultaneously make them human, make them just like, Joe Sixpack on the street, or Jill Sixpack. I don't know if it's Jill or not. But then like, or Jane, I guess maybe.
Yeah.
But do that, and then also like make them as mythical as possible. So like, yeah, like the writing of Poncho and Lefty is both like mythical, but also at the same time, Townes Van Zandt was just another guy. And like that as it's because those are on opposite ends of the spectrum, but I think that's important to put in context for your favorite artists. Is that like, because that's the thing too, is like when you meet famous people or your favorite artist, that also helps you not just go like fanboy, fangirl, and like be super nervous, because if you do meet these people, you don't want them to turn around and be like, oh, that person was,
Right. Yeah.
So
I'm actually glad you said that because again, like, I'm also a consumer of music at the end of the day. And I always just feel like, and I especially think it's interesting considering, being a journalist and whatnot. And you probably encounter like a lot of these situations. And one thing that's always been like confusing for myself was feeling like when I wrote, I feel, okay, let me set it up a little bit. So if you're coming out with like a new album or something, you have the opportunity to have some press and work with a journalist or any kind of like media representative, and they're willing to like talk about and share your music. I feel like the main question is always, all right, so why do people want to listen? And that is something that I feel like I have just struggled with, not only on my end, but in trying to relate to other artists, especially, I guess, current artists. I was always concerned, I don't have an interesting backstory, so I don't have anything. Why would you listen to me then? I don't know. Nothing super like controversial has really happened in my past, or nothing super sad, nothing super like out of the ordinary, like good, bad, in between. And that was something I was always really worried about. Like, oh, no one's really ever going to want to listen to this because it's just normal shit. And I finally, again, I feel like these are like some of the epiphanies that I've been able to have during this time of slowing down, is that like, I never want to just, it made me glad that I had the realization of like, oh, I'm just writing normal shit, you know, like, because that's what I want to do at the end of the day. You know, I, first and foremost, I write my music for myself, and I think it's funny knowing the backstories and the history and what led me to writing this song and that. If it's an autobiographical one, obviously not all of them are. But I always end up like connecting to real stuff. The stuff that may seem mundane, but that you experience as, you know, the average Joe or Jane. And I'm thankful that I was able to have that realization, because now moving forward, I know that that's what I want to invoke. I just want to be real, like, for lack of a better word. And because when I write a song that gets me through an emotion or a feeling and I feel better about it, I mean, that's all I need, to be honest. Like, that adrenaline rush that I get of finishing a song that I'm proud of, whew, you know, there's not a lot that compares to that feeling, in my personal opinion, especially when it comes to music. And so I really hope that if my music is able to be heard by other people, then my desire and my goal is that they're connecting with that real shit too. I hope it's okay to cuss.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
gonna be fine on here. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's, I think if you, maybe this goes into other fields as well, but if it does, like, I feel that what this is, I guess, if we're going to call it a industry, the entertainment industry, it's so easy to fall into the, man, I hope they think I'm cool enough.
Yeah.
And
yes. Totally. Yes.
I guess, like, this is just like classic imposter syndrome, you know, like,
Yeah.
just the,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they're gonna like out me for not being cool, or like being a fraud or a fake. And I don't know, I always like it's so, I guess what I've learned over the years has been that just being normal, or not normal, but just being yourself is what makes these makes you like accepted by other fans or by other artists and journalists, and, you know, like, not trying to overly impress your peers, you know what I mean? Impress them with the songs and not impress them by the rock and roll persona that you've created in your mind, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah. And I don't know if it's funny because I think about this a lot, and I don't know if it's a naive way of thinking or not, but I still believe that, you know, if the song is there, the song's going to speak for itself. Or, I mean, I really hope that's still the case.
yeah, I think, like, at the end of the day, that's, you know, the buck stops at that point. Like, but can this person write a great song? Because there's obviously a lot of people you meet who you go, oh, that person was really cool, or this band's really fun and cool. I don't know if they're writing the best to their ability, but
Yeah.
and that's what I don't want to say, like, because not every song, it's hard to make it where we're not talking in absolutes, because it's very impractical to think that, like, every song you write is going to be Poncho and Lefty, and that's like my go-to answer on this. You know what I mean? So, but not everyone needs to write that, and not everyone needs to play that, because there's plenty of, like, space in between that and honky-tonk badonkadonk, or, you know what I mean? Like, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, goodness between those two spaces, and so yeah, I don't know, like, where I was going to go with that either, but, like, I guess, like, to in all of this is what I would say is that yeah, like, the biggest worry is, like, the imposter syndrome, or the at the very least, like, thinking like, oh, I don't want to be an inconvenience.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just so you can just, like, get lost in your own mind on this stuff.
Oh gosh, tell me about it. I mean, so long, and still, like, not that I've been playing live shows for a while, but up until the moment I stopped, I still had the thought of just like, one of my biggest fears is like, yeah, I feel good about this, but I especially feel good about this when I'm like at home in this room, like writing this, and like I'm having this feeling with myself. But one of my biggest fears is like getting up on a stage and just, I mean, to be frank, I have been to a show or two in my lifetime where I'm just like, good for you. Maybe this is not like I just never wanted to like be blind to something that I should not be doing or acting or you know what I mean? And
Right.
my biggest fear was just always like, I don't want to be that person on the stage and people are watching like, good for you for getting up there, but maybe this is not your calling. That was just always, there's always going to be that, I think, maybe in the back of my mind, which speaks, to that kind of like, you can get lost in your head about all that. And again, like, bringing things full circle, I have done so much less of that during this time. And just another way that it's like really brought on, some, just more positivity into my life.
Yeah, it's weird to balance that self-awareness and and I guess like the being your worst enemy, you're the worst critic,
Mm-hmm.
because I think like the worst thing in life would be like the lack of self-awareness. And
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Like not
yeah.
being self-aware.
And that's the thing though, is like I think about that, I'm like, hopefully I'm self-aware on this, but like I don't know, maybe I'm not being self-aware. Maybe like but of course I think like you come across people who just lack that and you go, okay, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have at least some
Sometimes it
level
works
of
for them,
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just so, again, like you can just get lost in your mind. But like at the same time, like I don't think you can't go so far that you just don't do it, because then
Right.
you live
Yeah.
your entire life
Mm-hmm.
with what ifs and like, just never doing anything. So
Yeah. And especially at this point in time, what ifs just don't seem worth it.
right. Yeah. You mentioned, you're being creative in other outlets. I guess I've talked with a few people during this time that they have gone off and done other things, other creative things like painting and writing in other capacities and stuff like that. Do you feel like that makes your songwriting better, or do you feel like it's just do you consider like what you do as art as just one thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean like you splitting it up into songs or and novels, and you know what I mean? Like, do you even like split up what art is for you?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe if I split anything up, it's more like I can do this and I know I can do this, or at least I have an interest in this, or not. And so, for example, I think people who have the ability to show their creativity in ways that it's like, I can songwrite, I can paint, I can draw, this stuff, that doesn't necessarily exist for me. I feel like mine's a little bit more sporadic, for lack of a better word. I mean, I feel like the one thing that kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with the music is design and picking up that skill. But a lot of the ways that I feel like I've sought out creativity during this time as well, um, has been more, it's been like more from a therapeutic stance. So for example, crocheting, there's definitely still a part of my brain that wants to see progress. But another reason why I'm doing that is because I don't really have to think, and use a lot of brain power to do that. It's something I can do on autopilot and it lets my brain rest. And I think that is a way that helps my songwriting, giving I guess, my brain space to like let the wheels turn. I have found, that works for me. Reading too. Not that that's really, a creative expression on my part, but I feel like that definitely like helps spur creativity, within me. Um, I don't know. That seemed kind of like a really roundabout answer. I hope that answered
Yeah,
your
like
question.
the crocheting thing interests me because the um that's just like shower thoughts basically. Like
Yeah,
I've not
yes,
ever really
yeah,
thought of,
totally.
like, I don't know how to crochet or like sew or anything like that. So I don't want to like make it seem simpler than it is. But like it does seem like very repetitive and very, like you said, autopilot. So like that
Mhm.
seems very conducive for a space where you're able to just do that and just think things through. Because like I've always thought, for me, I posted it on Twitter the other day. I asked other journalists like, when do you think of like your best questions for people, or
Mm.
like your best time about an artist? And of course, like the the number one is like 15 minutes after the phone call, or like
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, like that's definitely a thing. But like my space is always like, when I'm like washing dishes, or I'm outside feeding the dogs and like watering, or
Mhm.
like vacuuming, or like doing stuff that like you don't really have to think about. You've done it a million times, so that's when I think. And it's just like when that person, if I had to like just like sit down and listen to a record and think about 20 questions off that record, I guess it's doable, but it's so much harder that way. I've realized like when I'm just put that music on and have it in the background, that's sometimes where I'll go, oh, I don't remember, like maybe that's what they mean by that line.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's the space. Like I don't know, that's been, so maybe I need to like start crocheting before
Well,
working on
in
this.
general, I just feel like I'm speaking personally, but I just can't force that, and it's interesting to hear you say because you know, when do you write your best questions? And if you just listen to a record and whatnot, that's something I feel like I started to pick up on when I was in college. I worked at our radio station, and the first job that I had was a music reviewer. And I remember thinking, oh, this is great. This is like the perfect job for me. Like I'll talk to you all day about what I think about this. And I remember like getting my first stack of CDs. And of course, these are like, this is college radio. So I'm getting lots of indie stuff that I've never heard. It's new, very different from stuff I'm used to listening to personally. And I would listen and I would just be like, I, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't have any, like this song had a cool beat, but like, that's about it. And yeah, I just kind of have to, I feel like I say this word a lot and I don't even know if it's used in the right context, but I gotta let it marinate, gotta, and like you said, showers and long drives are just, that's the best way to just kind of like clear my head.
Yeah, that's a great space too. Like the long drive, putting that record on, because I feel like that's still the records are like mixed still, like for the standard being a car stereo, and so
Mm-hmm.
um, putting whatever record on in a car and like just driving just does wonders. Um, that is such a great just space to just think about that. And you notice like a lot of songwriters will come up with some of their best stuff, like the seeds, the origins of songs come from. Well, I was driving and I thought of this, and it was just like I, hummed it into my memos on my phone or
I know that's the dangerous part
whatever.
of writing songs in your car.
Yeah, yeah. The just trying to type out whatever, yeah, or hum or what, you know what I mean. It's what's
It's always so interesting to go back, like when you do that, to go back and listen to that, you're just like, what was I? It's like, mine are always very interesting.
Yeah, like there's an episode of Seinfeld where he Jerry wakes up in the middle of the night from a dream, and he's laughing and he's like, "Oh, this is great," and he like writes it down on a piece of paper next to his bed. Wakes up in the morning because he's like, this I had like this great dream or this great joke last night in a dream, for a bit, yada yada yada. But then he can't read it after, and so like he's trying to get like other people to read see what it says, and so like that's the entire bit is like him trying to
Damn, I need to see that episode.
yeah, I don't know, I can't think of what the name is, but like that's very much like a trying to like, who was I when I was doing this,
Yeah.
Because like you're always like, you're gonna remember this, and you're gonna remember like these little bits about this, and then you're like, what was this about?
Yeah, and I rarely do. I'm like, damn it, I thought I was like for sure. But
yeah,
I don't know. Got to keep it interesting.
yeah. This episode is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Obviously, the coronavirus pandemic has had a massive impact on the music industry and on our daily lives at large. The Blue Light has been closed for nearly 2 months now, and if you're like me, you're probably jonesing for some live music, perhaps a Lone Star beer or a round of burn shots from your favorite bartender. If you're truly missing the place, there are 2 things you can do. For starters, Lubbock songwriter Charlie Stout and 49 other songwriters have come together for a 50-song compilation called Monday Night Lights. It's 50 demo-style recordings for $50, where all the proceeds will be going to furloughed bar staff at Blue Light Live. All you have to do is head over to mondaynightlights.com. You'll be getting songs from the likes of Josh Abbott and Wade Bowen and William Clark Green, to up-and-comers like Slade Coulter and Morgan Rutherford, to Blue Light singer-songwriter competition winners like Juliet McConkey, Isaac Hoskins, and Kenneth O'Meara. You'll recognize a whole lot of people on this list, just too many to name right here. Trust me when I say you will want to get Monday Night Lights. It's just an incredible collection of incredible songwriters. There's also some pretty cool limited edition poster prints that Charlie has for sale on the site, where those proceeds will obviously be going to bar staff as well. And we will probably end up having some other cool items listed on mondaynightlights.com as well pretty soon. Again, mondaynightlights.com. We've already raised a good chunk of money so far. We're super proud of how this all came together and proud of how many people have shared the compilation and everything. But as you know, more can always help. And of course, head over to bluelightlubbock.com. Click on the merch tab. They have koozies and t-shirts and caps. I swear, if you put on a Blue Light cap and a t-shirt, it almost feels like you're there if you close your eyes. Especially if you've already thrown on the Monday Night Lights compilation. Okay, back to the episode. I guess like transitioning here, you have these 2 singles coming out May 29th. Are they like going to be standalone singles, or are they a precursor for something larger in the works?
For now, they're standalone. They are a precursor. I'm not necessarily making that totally public, just because, I don't really care if it's out there, but I just don't. It's very much in its beginning stages, so I don't have any kind of like timeline for when that will all come together. But they will definitely be part of an eventual full length. But luckily, I was able to go in and record these songs before things went into quarantine. And with all of the time and, as I worked, got their progression going during this quarantine, from getting them mixed to mastered and the artwork done, it just seemed, why not release these? I'll revisit this point, but I'm not a very patient person. And so I kind of just kept asking myself the question, why would I sit on this right now when people probably want, something new, especially when people are listening to music a lot, let's just do it, put it out. Why not?
Yeah.
It's definitely not your traditional marketing tactic, but I'm going with it.
Yeah. I too, there's this weird balance between being patient and like being overly holding on to something, because I always think that you don't want to sit on something so long that then you lose all interest in it, and then it becomes like old for you. And in the music business, you often so often find where, you have, especially like these major labels of, you've made this record and it's like a year and a half old, and it's just this like collection of songs that you've been recording over this time, and they've all kind of lost interest for you, what you're doing now, and then you put this record out, and then you have to like tour those songs, and I always think that putting them out in a more reasonable time makes you like way more interested in what you're doing, and that people can see that too. You know what I mean? It's but I don't know. It's good to like always just not sit on something so long that you become disinterested in it.
I didn't want to, yeah, and that was, kind of the question is like, am I being overzealous? But to be quite honest, the more I listened to these songs as they neared completion, it just felt like at least one of them just felt like if it were me, I would want to hear this song right now. So.
Yeah, it's strange though too. I was listening to them, and they do very much like tie into like the times right now.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah, it's so like it's such a like both of them have these like really, kind of like a nostalgic kind of longing for like a little bit of normalcy and a little bit of like let's get out of what we're doing, and I don't know, like they both feel like very much like songs about longing for at least a space out of this space.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, well, what I guess like what was it about these two songs that you felt like these are the two of the songs that I have not recorded that I want to pair these two together specifically and go that route?
Well, as far as pairing them goes, I think that just kind of happened serendipitously. I had these two songs that I felt like they were pretty solid. One of them I had been playing live to try and get that really finessed with the band and lyrics and everything. And so they were something that I'd had at least under my belt for a while, and I was comfortable enough with the songs, saying, hey, let's just go in and let's just cut these. And the only reason why I cut them was because I was kind of trying at the time. It was, I'm trying to think, maybe it was early February. I was kind of trying to break this cycle within myself of, I knew I wanted to work toward a full length record, but I was putting this pressure on myself that like, okay, well, you're not going to, even contact a recording studio until you've got that finished and you've got those at least 10 songs locked in. You know what you're going to do, what you're going to call it, whatever. And so I had these two songs that I felt good about, and I just decided, well, you know what? Let me just go ahead, and I will never find the perfect time to record, because this is also a time when I'm working a full-time job, also trying to play music full-time, feeling like I'm living two lives. And I just kind of knew like there's never going to be a perfect time or perfect space carved out to do this. So why don't you just email the studio, see what their timeline is, and then go from there. So we jumped into the studio pretty quick, recorded these two songs, or at least got them finished to the point where we didn't necessarily have to go back to the studio once everything was quarantined. But once I heard them together, I was just, I literally listened to them one after the other. And the more that I did that, even just listening for edits and whatnot, it just seemed to work sonically. So yeah, the pairing of them really just kind of came on accident. But specifically, One Long Sad Song came first. And that one came that came together a little faster than other songs I've written. But I had a very clear direction of what I wanted to say. And I feel like this is a song that hopefully people will appreciate who are still going through any kind of like isolation, whether it be state or self-imposed. But one of my favorite things about music, especially about country music, are sad songs. I've said it so many times. And that's usually because when I'm going through moments of stress, anxiety, just depression, you name it, sometimes the only thing I can find comfort in and understanding in is a song. And it's just like, I don't know why you wrote those words, but that's exactly how I feel. And it's like that song can understand me better than my best friend, my partner, my therapist, my mom, you name it. And so I was really honing in on that. And, listening to these sad songs, I'll just put them on repeat and it'll just make me feel better. If anything, just solidarity in song form. But I found myself, even as much as I enjoy sad songs, listening to a lot of these over and over, even if I wasn't, in any kind of duress, it'd just be like, oh, I'm on my way to work, but I'm gonna play this sad song because it's good. I almost felt like I was manifesting a mood at certain points, or it did kind of become to feel like that. And I didn't necessarily want to get stuck there, but it just it was an interesting element, I felt like, for this song. And it just, one long sad song came to be. And it's something that I personally, if I was going to try to market this to someone, I would just say, like, this is a song. You need to pour something strong, maybe draw a bath if that helps. Let yourself cry if you want to, but definitely put this one on repeat, because this is just an opportunity. Not only was it for me, but hopefully whoever listens to it, to really lean into that emotion. And sometimes it doesn't always feel good, but at least in writing it, this was getting it out in a one long sad song way. It felt great, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then waiting in line, it's interesting, a lot of my most personal songs, I feel like after some time has passed, I can see, oh, this situation in my life led to that song, or whatnot. And I think in general, I said this earlier, I am impatient. Patience has never been my virtue. It's definitely a bit of a struggle. But I find myself, through different points in life, young, old, just whether it has to do with work or school or parents or whatnot, I found myself in so many situations where I just had to wait, and there's especially this, I don't know why, but if you ask me to just wait in a line, and especially if it's long, the logical side of my brain just wants to start asking questions, whatnot. And I don't jive with it. And I just think that finally, enough frustrating situations where I felt like I was being hurted or having to wait on something, or feel like I wasn't seeing, my effort or time or progress pay off in a way or in a timeline that I thought was acceptable, then I think that just happened to me enough that I was inspired to write Waiting in Line. And this is super nerdy, but one of my personal goals with that song was I wanted each line to end with the same near rhyme. So I don't know if anyone would even notice that by listening to it, but each line rhymes with line, basically. And I don't know why I wanted to do that. It was just kind of like a personal challenge. But I also realized that when I write songs, I tend to approach them maybe from a poetry standpoint, or maybe it's just OCD, I don't know. But a lot of times when I'm writing songs, I want them to almost, if the goal is to get them to sound as good as they can, then I want it almost to look like that on paper too, even though not many people are probably reading lyrics, printed lyrics at that. But that was just to kind of please myself. So that's a little Easter egg for anyone, I guess, who might notice.
Yeah.
And then I don't, believe it or not, actually, it's probably very believable. But the songs were sonically inspired by Martina McBride. I think I was just listening to a lot of her music during that time, and it found its way into those songs. But there are definitely two songs that I have been more excited about, than I have in a really long time. And as someone who calls themselves a songwriter, I think that's not always the easiest thing to say about your work. So that was kind of another driving force behind wanting to release them now. I'm just like, hey, I'm excited about them, and I want to follow that at least. So yeah.
That's okay. The Martina McBride thing, I definitely noticed that.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
And I was like, man, this sounds like I can't think of what the first one. Another long, or I'm missing it now. One long sad song.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely a Martina McBride. I never looked it up, so like I was like, but this sounds like, and I don't even know what song it is necessarily, but
I can give you a hint. No.
But yeah, like I definitely was like, oh, this definitely feels like that. I don't. It's interesting. There a lot of stuff to break down, I guess. In that.
Yeah, I know. I was very long-winded.
Well, like it's interesting because let's talk about the Easter egg aspect first. Okay. I feel like a lot of songwriters do that kind of thing where, like 90% of the song is for public consumption and like 5% of it's for me. Like as far as like the technical, I did this because I thought this was funny, or you know what I mean? Or
yes, totally.
And I think there's a lot of songwriters who do that where, like that is this little bit I did because I thought it's an inside joke with myself. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting you talk about the waiting in line thing, because like you did mention in there earlier on was, you didn't want to, you originally wanted to do, I'm booking the time when I got the 10 songs and going that entire route. And then, you didn't go that route. You didn't wait in line, you didn't wait for that specific time to cut a record all the way through and do it the normal way, waiting for that time. I feel like what that reminded me of is, are you a fan of The Wire?
I have never watched it. I'm very familiar. I've heard it's a great series, but I've never watched it.
Well, this is over right now. I'm sorry.
Oh.
No, but like there's this, what it did, it reminded me of this line in there, and that is, so like, to give a little context, it's a conversation between these two detectives, and one of them is just like really always just, he's a lot more laid back and he's a lot more thoughtful. He's like the Morgan Freeman of the show. And then Jimmy is like the asshole of the show. And he's kind of like just always like wants the results now. And he's a bleeding heart as far as like what police work should be. And like he lives in a world of absolutes, right? And so like Lester says to Jimmy, a life Jimmy, you know what that is? It's the shit that happens when you're waiting for the things that never come. And like,
wow.
That's like the whole thing about like, cause Jimmy is like questioning like why, like what have we been doing with this wire, the wiretap and all that stuff? Why this is what we get out of this, I thought this was going to be so much better and yada yada, all that kind of stuff. And I think that ties into like, if you wait for these moments to happen without like pushing for them, like they're just never going to come. If you're waiting for the quote unquote perfect time in the future, that's just not, it's not going to, most of the time it's not going to work out. You're going to realize, fuck, I got to do it right now. Right now is the perfect time for this.
And I mean, that was kind of like again, like the beginning of my kind of like personal epiphanies. I was just like, I have stood in my way so long. I mean, so long. And I still probably do a little bit, but I think probably my biggest conflict came from I, up until very recently, have been working a full-time job, and also just like, and the second I get home, I, change clothes, pick up my gear, and I'm out that night, like fully burning the candle at both ends. And not that I'm unique in that sense. A lot of musicians do that. Um, but I think I latched on to a little bit of security there, and especially like the full-time job thing. And I spent so much time really just frustrated with myself, because I knew I had this good thing going, and it was a sure thing, like I'm making money, or I was making money that I could rely on, and then money that helped me go into the studio and pay my band and things like that. But it was such a catch-22, because I was limiting myself so much. I mean, my tours were non-existent, and if they were, very short, because I just couldn't. There's just no way I could take off that much time, from a full-time job to be able to pursue something that ultimately has been more fulfilling and to me, in the long run. And so that was just kind of like the first step for me to just be like, all right, get out of your way then, like, and I knew, and I know that in my future too, like if this is something that I really want to see succeed in whatever way, that looks like, I'm going to have to take a leap of faith or two. And so I feel like this was like step one, and like showing myself that like, all right, like maybe you don't have to take that leap of faith right now, but you at least got to take a baby step, and like start the progress. And again, like this weird time followed that, and opened the door, not only for just like new ways of thinking, and approaching my music and my craft, but especially with the release of these songs, the reception of them will be subjective, and something that I can't control, no matter what, no matter how good I think the songs are or otherwise. But the possibility of knowing what's on the other side of that excites me more these days than ever before. So again, just trying to like follow that gut feeling. I don't know if it's an instinct, but at least follow that gut feeling for now, because for the first time in probably a long time, if not, the only time in my life, time is on my side, so
Yeah.
it's weird. In a good way.
Yeah. Well, it's again, it goes to the whole, being excited, but also like, not like scared,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm a little scared.
Yeah, but like
But
I feel it can't be like the same scared as before.
no, I
Anxious,
think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
not like before.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. I guess it's always it has to be like a constant reminder to yourself, because like that's I feel the same way in a lot of ways of like getting in my own way, as you kind of put it. Like, yeah, you gotta have to take that leap of faith. You gotta just do it and not nitpick over the small things, because I will like nitpick over everything that I do, but then like give so much leeway to other people, because like you go, well, like you have to think about like the way they you know what I mean, like it's
Yep. It's funny. I mean, I'm so thankful that I have, someone like Brian in my life, and is like, I mean, he's my family, that I get to bounce a lot of these ideas off of too, because like I would wonder, who do you get the opportunity to talk to this about, like many other people, or would they understand like what is like normal to you, and like especially in your process and whatnot. So yeah, it has been nice to like bounce some of these feelings and all that off of Brian, and we're pretty much on the same wavelength.
Yeah, because like so many other people just don't understand the exact thing, because it's like um, it's bad, but like a lot of people are just gonna always just think of music, unless you're Alan Jackson or George Strait or Reba McEntire, as this is just a hobby, you know, like, and obviously it's not. Like there's so much in between just doing it as a hobby and being a mega superstar, you know. So um, when you find your tribe, if you will, like those people understand the what all goes into it, and it not being, you know, like I feel like there's just so many people in, especially like in your family and stuff, who are always just kind of like, um, oh, so that's what you're. This isn't just a phase, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like
Yeah.
it's so.
Well, and almost oppositely too, I would find with my family, it's like they
Oh,
would
really?
glamorize things. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is not what you think.
Yeah.
You know, like I just
No, I get.
I can't. Yeah.
No,
Just like
I
thinking
get that
about
too,
different
though.
things,
Like
just
that's
laughing.
no, that is interesting too. I guess. Yeah. I've had, now that you mentioned that part, I've also had to like temper down, I guess, expectations, because it's like then you get that. And at least in my experience, it's like, what do you think you could get as tickets for? Insert band name, and then it's like, well, no, probably not.
Yeah.
Like, but then
Yeah.
like also like, if it's people that I do know, then it's like, well, yes, but I can't get 10 tickets, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're asking for,
Yeah.
like, wait, like maybe if it was just like one of you, yeah, I could get a +1, or you know what I mean? But it's like
Yeah,
you
like suddenly your perceived level of access is like they're like, oh, you can go anywhere, right?
yeah, or like you're that goes into the whole thing about meeting people and being like, you know, I always try and like not be an inconvenience, and you're definitely going to be wanting like 100 photos, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can't
Uh-huh.
take you anywhere, you know. But it's it's so, it's just strange. The have you had experiences like that, of the not necessarily asking for tickets, but like asking for access to for stuff that you really don't have the
Oh,
authority for?
yeah. Well, most of it hasn't really happened in my musical life. I mean, like the most it's really been is like, can you get me on the list in my musical life? Which in most cases I'm like, yes, thank you for showing up. Yes, I will put you in 10 people on list. but
Yeah.
but in my full-time job previously, I worked in marketing, but it was for music festivals. And it's funny because it's like, yeah, I'm working, and a lot of times that would mean I would have to physically work them during the weekends that they would happen. And oh my gosh, you find so many new friends during festival season. And like people would just come out of the woodwork and like, can you get me into this show, this? And like what was really confusing is in Austin, Austin City Limits is like a brand that is bought, and like there are like 5 different major things in Austin with Austin City Limits. There's a festival, there's a venue, there's a radio station, like there's a TV show. And what's kind of funny about that is that no one knows the difference. And so, I mean, the people who work in for each of those respective venues and whatnot know the difference, but like the average person coming to Austin doesn't know, like, oh, they bought those name rights, and like ACL Festival isn't the same thing as ACL Live and whatnot. And so half the time I would be getting questions for like things that I'm like, we don't do that. Like, that's not our venue or whatever, and
Yeah.
there is a lot of like that, and I'm not good at that either, because I am especially someone who's like, I don't want to inconvenience, and I certainly don't want to, like overstep my boundaries and, ask or go too far, ask something I shouldn't. but
yeah,
I don't miss that.
yeah. I guess like the difference between all those and like the public not really knowing is on purpose, though. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I guess
like
so. Yeah.
for people to just think of it as just one giant entity, but yeah, I don't know. Like I guess every once in a while I've been asked about tickets and stuff like that for artists and shows that I'm like, my name's not on the bill, so I'm not gonna be able to get you in anyways. So I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But why didn't you think I was cool in high school? You know?
Right. Yeah.
All right, thanks for listening. Be sure to check out Kathryn's 2-song single coming out tomorrow. Please check out episode sponsors Wicker's Jalapeno Jelly and the Blue Light Live. I will see y'all next Monday.